Que a paz do Senhor Jesus Cristo seja sobre a sua vida, sobre a sua família. Quem está falando aqui é a Rosane. Hoje é dia 19 de outubro de 2024. Eu trago aqui para vocês, meus irmãos e irmãs, uma legendagem da Maria Zeee, aqueles de vocês que não conhecem. Ela é repórter investigativa e ela está entrevistando aqui o Dr. Kirk Elliott. E eu quero fazer essa observação logo no começo do vídeo, meus irmãos, para falar para vocês que eu não legendei o vídeo todo, porque depois eles entram em outras questões ali, situações políticas, mas para falar para você que também eles não entram na situação da única solução que existe para essa situação que nós estamos vivendo e vamos viver com mais intensidade, que é o Senhor Jesus. Então eu quero que você que está ouvindo isso saiba que sim, nós temos uma saída que é o Senhor Jesus. Ele é o único refúgio, a única fortaleza para as tempestades que nós estamos presenciando e vamos começar a presenciar com muito mais intensidade. Então eles trazem ali todo o problema e não trazem a solução. Falam de Apocalipse, falam da Bíblia, mas não falam da solução que é o Senhor Jesus. Então eu gostaria de falar aqui para você que sim, há uma solução, há uma saída. Jesus Cristo. Ele disse que nós passaríamos por tribulações, por provações, que era para nós negarmos a nós mesmos. Não entre em desespero, meu irmão, minha irmã, você que está ouvindo esse áudio, que vai ouvir esse vídeo agora. Não entre em desespero, não se sinta sem saída. Nós temos uma saída, que é o único caminho, na verdade, que é o Senhor Jesus Cristo. Que Deus te abençoe em nome de Jesus.
Well, the agenda is absolutely heating up and barreling ahead. We now have countries telling their people that if they don't register their biometrics and link it to their banking, not only will their government services be suspended, but also their ability to bank altogether. This is an astronomical escalation in the move towards digital currency, digital ID, and the complete control system that comes with it. And mind you, it is happening across multiple nations. Dr. Kirk Elliott is joining us right now to give us an update. Dr. Kirk Elliott, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you being here.
It is so good to be with you as usual, Maria.
We have some really, really crazy stuff to decide today. We have countries preparing to cut off your banking unless you register your biometrics. Oh my gosh, it's happening. Dr. Elliott, talk to us about this.
So this is okay. So you and I have talked on previous shows about central bank digital currency and what that is going to mean for the world, right? So World Economic Forum, Bank for International Settlements, International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, they're all moving towards the central bank digital currency repository, which is going to hold all of your assets in digital form, but with the ugly caveat of based on Dr. Pippa Malmgren and the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab is this money of yours is no longer yours under a unified ledger system where they tokenize all of your assets and they can switch ownership with the flip of a button, right? And it's like, what? And what would be the flip of the button? Your ideology.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. This is where your digital social profile, your social credit score, all of these things are the buzzwords that people have been talking about for the last 2 years. This is why this is happening, right? Because they want to separate you from your money with the end result of complete people control, right? So that's the backdrop of central bank digital currency. Now, you can't have paper money in a central bank digital currency world because their goal is to be able to monitor every single transaction in real time and test it against your ideology. Like we talked about, I think, on the last show that we did together, you can't, I mean, you could go to like a farmer's market or a grocery store, a gas station, and give them a $20 bill, and it's private. Nobody knows it was you that did it. Well, you can't control people if there's still paper currency then. So they need to move everything digital. Now, Kuwait what you just referred to is one country that is putting this whole thing on afterburner mode, right? On steroids, because now for you to access your bank account, you have to register your fingerprints, your biometric identification with the government, right? So now what does that mean? They were going to phase this in a little bit, right? So by the end of October, if you don't have your fingerprint, basically registered to the government, they're going to cut you off from your basically credit cards. If
Yep.
you don't have it by December 1st, they're cutting you off from all of your bank accounts and
Yep.
from your brokerage accounts, right? But for some reason, this was accelerated because already in Kuwait, there's 60,000 people that don't have access to their bank accounts anymore.
Wow.
By December, they're expecting that to be 1 million people because you consider the religious ideology of the Middle East, right?
Yep.
It's a Muslim population, Jewish population, Christian population, but pretty much predominantly Muslim in that area. Well, they don't like the absolute people control that comes from the digital banking world. And so this is why they're opposed to giving up their fingerprints.
Well, it's not just that. They actually believe in a mark of the beast too. So that's the
I
other thing.
know. They absolutely do. And so this is something that transcends religious boundaries. I don't care if you're Christian, Muslim, or Jewish, or anything, right? It's like you are giving up control and privacy. And so you're basically saying, oh yeah, if I give my fingerprint, I basically am putting spyware in my bank account. I mean,
I want to show people, I actually want to take people through this because this is just unbelievable how quickly this is accelerating. So this is biometricupdate.com rather. Kuwait prepares to halt services for unregistered biometrics. Take a look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Those in Kuwait failing to meet the deadlines for biometric registration will face suspension of government services. The Central Bank of Kuwait is also planning to implement phased restrictions on the bank accounts of individuals who do not comply with biometric registration requirements. And as Dr. Elliott was saying, the deadline is September 30, and for expatriates, it's December 30. So approximately 175,000 citizens and 800,000 expats still need to complete this procedure. Then you also have another one. Kuwait nears 2.5 biometric registrations, less than 36 remaining. So this is what I keep telling people, Dr. Elliott. They say, I say you did really well resisting the COVID injections. You found another job. You were still able to have money. But when it comes to you don't have any money unless you register your biometrics, I think a lot of people will comply.
I sadly think so. So let's put it into this story format. Let's say that you are a God-fearing Christian, you read the Bible, you understand Revelation 13 is the mark of the beast, where it says no man, woman, or child can buy or sell unless they have the mark, right? So what I've been talking about for a year now is that central bank digital currency and this is all about people control. This is it. And COVID was the test. COVID, I think, was a test to see how quickly would people give up their freedoms for health, right? So what's actually possibly one factor greater than your health? It would be the ability to buy or sell or get groceries or pay your rent or pay your utilities or anything.
Anything.
You can't live without you getting your bank accounts, right? So now they found out how quickly the world would buckle under the pressure of a global health emergency. Well, now you've got this coming up, and what are their talking points, Maria? It's like, well, we can find the sex traffickers and the human traffickers and the drug traffickers and the money launderers and all this stuff if we know everything about you, the source of funds, the use of funds, all of that. So they're painting this glorious picture of how transparent and quick and life-changing digital money is going to be. But the ugly side of that is let's say that you are a God-fearing Christian who understands what the mark of the beast is, but yet you come up with this moral dilemma, this ethical dilemma that says, hey, Jane Doe, if you don't actually sign up for the Fed Now program, you don't sign up for the central bank digital currency, you don't get your Social Security. You won't get your Medicare, your Medicaid. You won't get any of the government services. And so how many people are going to say, well, wait, this is my only income. This is all I've got in retirement. What am I supposed to do? Starve or take this thing? And I think a lot of people are going to take it. And that article that you just referenced, it mentioned exactly that: withholding of government services unless you give them your biometric identification. That's how it starts.
Yeah. The other thing that people may not realize is it's not just about, say, accessing your retirement services. You mentioned it before: rent, pay your bills. So you may say, okay, well, it doesn't matter, I own my home. Okay, how are you going to pay your electricity? How are you going to buy your groceries when all of these grocers only accept this type of, digital currency? Or not even that. They only accept, say, card payment, which a lot of people do. Cash is now obliterated because through the Know Your Customer program, the banks have said you can't let people withdraw money anymore. By the way, that's happening en masse, especially in Australia. And so you have to switch to just using your card because that's the only way through, we can protect fraud. That is actually happening with the Know Your Customer program. It's like they are actively pushing that all over the world. And so banks more and more are refusing people cash. Then stores are only allowed to use cash because that's the only way we can prevent fraud. And so it's like, you can't pay your bills, you can't pay your water, you can't pay your electricity, you can't buy food. What on earth are you going to do? And so, as you've seen in Kuwait, even though there's been a lot of resistance, only 30% remaining to register.
I mean, so that's phase one, right? But look what's happening in Europe right now too. It's not the banking side of it, but it's travel, right? So as of, I think, 3 or 4 days ago, when you travel internationally, and which you do a lot, right? You get your passport stamped when you enter the port of entry. Well, they're getting away with that, and they're going with biometric identification there too, to avoid, and this is their positive messaging. Well, if we need biometric identification, we're going to find any kind of illegal immigrants coming into Europe or America or wherever in the world, right? So this is where they say we can stop this kind of activity and the drains on society, on taxpayers' dollars, by not allowing people in unless they have a biometric identification. But you know what the flip side of that coin is? If you're in that country, they can just restrict your travel completely without biometric identification, right? There's always a flip side to every coin. And when you realize that the politicians doing this globally, this globalist agenda, is not about fixing a broken system, right? It's about people control. Because if you can control a person, you've got them at your beck and call forever, and people will willingly give up their freedoms in exchange for perceived security and peace, and sometimes comfort and ease, right? It's like, oh yeah, this is super quick, and all I have to do is press this little button on my Apple computer, and it's Apple Pay will pay for everything. I don't have to carry around a wallet. I don't have to do anything, right? So for convenience, people give up their freedoms. This is what concerns me about this. And they've tested and tested and tested with various global health emergencies and things of that nature. But I think what's coming up next is actually the almost like an end game moment where, and they've told us, it's like when the United Nations met at the Pact for the Future summit, they said we've got to be prepared for events happening in space, for black swan events, for a global health emergency, for a banking crisis, for all this stuff, right? And when crisis comes, this is where people start to give up their freedoms even more. And they've already telegraphed what's coming. Right? They've already told us what's going to happen. All you have to do is listen to a few speeches by Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum, And they're not hiding in the shadows anymore, Maria. They're not, using code words and cloak and dagger type stuff. They're just like, this is what we're going to do. And we're going to have these 15-minute cities where nobody can travel. And Kamala's saying that